picturesque junks of the boat people have changed little since the British first came into these waters in 1699 to trade with China for silk, spices, and a little-known herb called tea. The boat people knew every shoal, every reef, every safe channel and anchorage south of the Pearl River. They certainly knew of this sheltered of water at the feet of the Dragon Mountain and hidden behind the tiny island of Apli Chow. Here they were safe from the ferocity of pirates and the fury of the supreme winds, now called typhoons. The greatest asset of the little harbour was the spring of fresh water that gushed free from the rocks on the slopes of the Dragon Mountain. Here the boat people could replenish their pots and water casks. Because of this blessing, they called this haven Hong Kong, which in their language means the fragrant harbour. In the year 1841, the British dropped anchor off the larger island. It was a barren island, with a few fishermen's huts squatting dejectedly close to the water. The fishermen sought the favours of Tin Hau, the goddess of the sea. They built her a jot house, carefully sited, so that the goddess could see and bless their junks as they left the safety of the fragrant harbour. The British landed on the larger island and raised the Union Jack. They built a barracks to house the soldiers sent to defend the rock which they had stolen from China. Queen Victoria's statue was set up. A Chinese labour force from the mainland was mobilized to build in the Victorian tradition. They built administrative buildings, a courthouse, and the Church of St. John. The workforce built themselves modest huts on the hills, close to the fishermen's village by the fragrant harbour. They brought with them a culture that reached back into the mists of time. They built temples covered with green porcelain tiles brought all the way from far-off Peking. Meanwhile, the boat people flocked into the fragrant harbour in their hundreds. Many of them forsook the hazards of the open seas and traded their large fishing junks for the smaller sampans, making the fragrant harbour their permanent home. The boat people were born on their boats. They lived and died on their boats. Solid ground felt strange beneath their feet, but over the years, their children and their children's children ventured on shore until they were equally at home on the land as they were on the water. The boat people eked out a precarious living by scouring the yellow seas for fish, the creeks for crabs, and the mud flats for shellfish. They sent their women folk ashore with the produce of the sea. They washed and cleaned their catches and carried them to market in shallow rattan baskets. The British from the other side of the island kept a jaundiced eye on the growing maze of stinking slums that erupted and festered around the fragrant harbour. They had to give it a name. With a complete lack of feeling, they called it Aberdeen. Not, it is said, after the Scottish seaport, but after a lesser-known lord who slumbered in Westminster. Aberdeen fish market prospered. Housewives came to buy or to barter. On the north side of the island, the British settlement quickly expanded along the thin coastal strip until it met and merged with the Chinese settlements on each side. Sedan chairs and rickshaws soon became inadequate as a means of transport in the fast-growing city, and the British introduced tramways from one end of the strip to the other to the North Point market. Here the Chinese bought their rice, vegetables and fruit. They displayed their ducks on the walls, as they used to do in Old Canton, much to the consternation of the chickens. Comes half a buffalo carcass for the butcher. The head is dragged in afterwards. The fishmonger cajoles the customer to enjoy the aroma of a long dead dried fish. The introduction of trams gave the British an opportunity to clear away slums, widen streets and to build larger and taller buildings. Today, the figures for the Hong Kong Tramway Company are very impressive. They operate 162 trams over 8.7 miles of track. In a single year, the fleet carries 6.3 million miles, carrying in excess of 150 million passengers. The Hong Kong Tramway Company boasts that the longest anyone needs wait for a tram in Central is a mere 25 seconds. As the population escalated, every flat building site along the coastal strip was utilized. The only way to build was up. Cheap flats for the workers reached new heights. In the new City Hall Registry Office, a continuous stream of couples pledge their troth and pose for their wedding photographs in the public gardens. Marriages are made in the moon according to the Chinese. The supreme matchmaker binds the two souls together with red string. Red is a lucky color, and the old-fashioned bride wears a red gown. Her matron of honor favors happy yellow. The marriages will be blessed with children like these, in whose hands the future of Hong Kong must lie, no matter what political climate prevails. Some of these will be the sons and daughters of the boat people who long ago left the fragrant harbour to seek their fortune in the big city. Now they are well dressed, well fed, healthy, and will be well educated. They will inherit a new, vibrant, pulsating city. With land at a premium, the old buildings are torn down and replaced by taller and even taller buildings. The whole city of Victoria stretches its limbs to the sky. Along the thin coastal strip, a seething population of 1 million people seem all to be on the move at the same time. Victoria Park is a place of peace and quiet. Amongst the flowering bushes and trees, there is time to read the Sunday papers over a quiet smoke. In a verdant glade, birds can be taken for a walk and introduced to other birds so that they can sing together in the trees. For some, the day always begins with a quiet half-hour of Tai Chi, ancient Chinese slow-motion exercises which are said to promote sharp eyes, cure blood pressure and stomach disorders, and to produce a clean and healthy mind. Unfortunately for the peace lovers, the Chinese martial arts of Ken Kwan Do and Kung Fu have appeared in the park. On this particular Sunday morning, the peace is also shattered by the roar of miniature petrol engines taking part in an international go-kart Grand Prix. Evidence of the building of the new ultra-modern city is everywhere. The new Allied Forces headquarters owes its unique shape to the modern vagaries of leaving time bombs in car parks. A road tunnel reaches right under the harbour to the mainland. A railway tunnel is soon to follow. Old Victorian hotels are being replaced with soaring modern luxury hotels. The Central District has been long dominated by the Connaught Building, the first of the ultra-modern projects. Here, covered walkways crisscross, a very busy part of the city. Modern sculptures flourish in odd places. Realizing the importance of recreation in the high pressure of modern life, every small open space is landscaped and girt with fountains and seats. This cool oasis in the heart of the city takes its name from the old black statue of Queen Victoria which used to stand here. The best views of the new city can be seen from Victoria Peak, which can be reached by the Peak Tramway. Built in 1888, soon after the rich landowners deserted the unhealthy mists of Happy Valley and took to the hills. It has an engine house near the top of the peak and operates 2 trams, one at each end of 2 miles of steel cables. Each tram can carry up to 72 passengers. Over the year, this totals over 2 million passengers. With alarming gradients of 1 in 2 and spectacular views, this is a ride never to be forgotten for a fare equivalent to a mere 15 pence. The trams climb to 1,350 feet. From here, the view is breathtaking. The British had never intended to colonize the barren rock when they landed in 1841. Their only interest was in the stretch of water between the island and the mainland of China. Sheltered each side by ranges of rocky hills, this is possibly the best deep-water natural harbour in the whole of the Far East. It was not the British, but the stream of Chinese refugees who fled from the mainland who really colonized Hong Kong. They were industrious and worked hard. On land reclaimed from the sea, they built the modern skyline as it is seen today. Most of the high-stern junks these days come from communist China. They come from the north and sail through the harbour as a shortcut to the Pearl River and thus to Canton. The Hong Kong boat people now mostly run motorised junks and sampans. After a hard day, they like nothing better than to return to the real fragrant harbour, round by Aberdeen on the south side of the island. Today, about 20,000 people live in the fragrant harbour on their boats. The fishing village of Aberdeen has now grown into a thriving town. The mean huts of the fishermen have been exchanged for high-rise flats, but the majority of the boat people still prefer to live on their boats. A little way along the coast from the fragrant harbour is a sandy beach called Repulse Bay, which is a favourite spot for relaxing on the weekends. The Chinese congregate here in their hundreds for picnics and group barbecues and outdoor games. At the far end of the beach, a rich group of descendants of the boat people have built this magnificent temple to thank the gods for their prosperity. They erected huge statues of Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy, and Tin Hua, the goddess of the sea, both looking out to sea, watching and waiting to bless the junks from the fragrant harbour as they pass. With all their riches, they will never go back to live on the fragrant harbour, but they still keep up the tradition with the sea. With their new beautiful racing yachts, they have become the new boat people. They burn joss sticks for Tin Hau and pray to her to to make the whole of Hong Kong a beautiful and prosperous fragrant harbour.